So I am the executive director. I am the sole employee of the Open Networking Foundation. This is my full-time job. What's happening is a movement in the networking industry. And you will see that I do think it's a revolution for reasons you probably don't expect. And we will get on to that. The networking community has been a little envious, I think, of the worlds of computing and storage, and that they have virtualized their operations, and networking hasn't. Networking had its heyday kind of in the 1980s or 70s. And since then, it really has not added anything new in terms of fundamental concepts or abstractions. So what I have here is just a picture of a lot of plumbing. And it's there because I think we're tired of talking about so much plumbing. And one of the notions I will introduce today is how we're going to reduce the importance of plumbing. It's there, all right, but it's not going to be so prevalent in the applications. There are a lot of what I call point band-aids. People call them, point solutions. To me, I see band-aids upon band-aids upon band-aids in networking. Each one fixes a particular problem, but only that problem. If I look at enterprises, there is really no more thankless job than being the IT manager or the CIO. If you look at what it takes to succeed as a CIO or an IT manager or the networking manager, it's not that you can do anything great. It's that you cannot screw up. So how does the network actually serve the business goals of the enterprise or the carrier? That's a motivation behind what we are doing. So how did OpenFlow happen? Well, it happened, again, accidentally in a research environment at Stanford University with really two people. One was a student, one was a professor. The student was frustrated because students are used to programming everything they want. They get into networking and this grad student says, I cannot program this thing. The professor is thinking something different, thinking, how much research is there left in networking? I can't even try a protocol beyond IP. Are we stuck in this forever? Because I cannot build a system to test and experiment and do research with at scale. You cannot do real-world networking research without using the scale of the internet itself. Most of today's networking boxes are standalone boxes that have their own custom ASICs, their own operating system, and their own features put in by the networking vendors. Each one is an autonomous system. It learns about the topology from its neighbors. It's standalone. This came out of the mandate of the US Advanced Research Projects Agency in the 60s, that we have to have a network that survives a nuclear attack. So if one box gets knocked out, it's fine. Everything will reconfigure around it. So the transition away from this is in a couple of simple steps. First of all, we take this operating system and we move it to a place that has a globalized view of the network, which is true absolutely in data centers and increasingly in enterprise networks and also in carrier networks. So instead of replicating all the routing protocols in every device, you have it in one place. Next step is we take the features out of each box and we put it up there. So what's left? Custom ASICs. Already there's a movement away from that toward merchant silicon. Right now it's prevalently where there is an Ethernet layer 2 environment. But if you complete that step, then these become simple packet forwarding devices. Now, to those of us in the data networking world, this is a revelation. We separated the control plane from the forwarding plane. Aren't we brilliant? Well, we're only half as brilliant as the people in the telecom world who've been doing this for 100 years with circuit switching. So it's a simple concept that actually brings a lot of value of enabling you to govern your network from a single place with ordinary software. Now, once you've separated the control plane from the forwarding plane, you have to find a way for the forwarding plane to know what to do. That's where the OpenFlow protocol comes in. So we were formed, instead of taking this technology and giving it to an existing standards organization, because of the need to innovate not only in the technology but also in the standards making process. And that's what we are doing. We have a very high cost of entry. It's $30,000 a year. We want the seriously committed to be involved in writing these standards because we want everyone who writes the standard to have a commercial stake in those decisions in the technical specifications. You can just take a look at this. What's interesting is that it really covers the entire spectrum of the IT space except for enterprises. We're talking to some enterprises. We have chip vendors here. We have merchant silicon and network processor vendors. We have system vendors, networking companies. We have computer companies. We have other service providers. You see Korea Telecom, Comcast, Tencent, large ISP in China. Software companies. We have Citrix, VMware, Infoblox. Take your pick here. We have training companies here. These are some of the things that it will lead to. I think networking is going to become an integral part of computing in a way that makes it less important because it's less of a problem. It's not the black sheep any longer. I think enterprises are going to be exiting technology, or I should say exiting plumbing. They're not going to care about the plumbing. Whether it's their networks or the cloud networks that increasingly meet their needs and the cloud services, they're going to say, here's the function or the feature I want for my business goal. And you make it happen, and somebody worries about the plumbing, but not as many people as worry about plumbing today. The operators are gradually becoming software companies or internet companies. It gives opportunities to operators they didn't have before of offering more diverse services and experimenting at low cost with new services. IT might actually have greater business value and be valuable in the enterprise for positive goals, not negative goals. Negative goals is don't screw up. Positive goals are to improve the bottom line. And finally, for the young generation of game players and programmers and hackers, I hope to see them back in the networking world. It's been a wasteland for about 12 years.
Dan, thank you very much. And it looks like the whole networking business is going to be shaken up big time.